But I guess the first thing I thought of to tell you was how much I love and miss you. I miss talking to you on our Sunday FaceTime calls that we did every week, even though we usually never talked about anything much, nothing new was happening. It was just nice to see your face and hear your voice. I talk to you and Dad anyway, and I know you can hear me. I feel so grateful to have had you and Dad in my life for so many years. Not many kids can say that they had their parents live to 94 and 95, and that is truly awesome. Thank you for being a great mom. You raised all three of us to be strong, independent, caring, and unselfish, doing it with love and compassion. I'm so grateful I was born to you and Dad, although you might not think so. I know you're in heaven, and I'll see you both again one day, but until then, you're always in my heart every day. Thank you for giving me a wonderful life. I love you.
Hi, Mom. It was a pleasure to be one of the three kids you raised. It was so important to you that we were honest, hardworking, independent, and educated. You never stopped with that mantra, protecting us, demanding that others treat us with respect, even though we were just kids. I recall so many times that you stood up for us. You always wanted the best and encouraged us to succeed, always telling us how proud you were of all of our endeavors. You did your job well. We are all of those things. Successful human beings with big hearts, wanting only the best for everyone, and giving in every way we know how. I miss you, Mom. You were a rock star.
Mom, you've been through more than a few elections. What are some of the things that you remember from some of the other elections throughout the years that were monumental in your world?
There was one Republican I voted for, and that was Eisenhower. I did vote for him.
Okay. And what year was that approximately?
That would have been about 1950.
Okay. I like Ike. That was a slogan.
I mean, he had all those years of just peace, but he did accomplish a lot. He's the one that got the highway system across the United States.
Wow.
Because there was not any kind of freeway type system before that. There really weren't that many cars when you think about it.
Yeah. Do you remember your first family car?
You mean as a kid?
Yeah.
It was a panel truck, because they used it to deliver flower arrangements for funerals and things, weddings and things like that.
And where was that you grew up?
In White Salmon.
Oh, that's right. Goldendale, and then down further to the river.
It's between here and Goldendale.
Yeah. Other recollections as you look back on your world? World War I, World War II?
Well, I was in high school during World War II. By the time it was over, I was only 15 when it was over.
You graduated in 46?
Pardon?
Did you graduate in 46?
48.
48, okay.
And Bev graduated in 46. He tried to quit school and join the Navy, but his mother would have to sign for him. And she said, I will not sign that until you finish high school.
Where were you throughout the Vietnam crisis?
I see, my brother Bill went to Korea. And he spent 2 years, just enough to earn the GI Bill. And he went to college on that. He just barely made it had he not joined he was up at Washington State. Had he not joined the fire department, he wouldn't have had enough money to pay rent and food. So we joined their fire department and got a place to live there at the firehouse, and then his food that way. And then the GI Bill paid for his tuition.
In White Salmon. So you were born in 1930?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking agriculture was what kept the family fed, or?
I was actually born in the Dalles, Oregon.
Sure, right up the river.
My mom's home. And when I was very, very small, they moved to White Salmon. When my grandma's place, they took over. So all those years, my dad tried to make it pay off, and it was always a struggle. There were two pear orchards, a cherry orchard, and a prune orchard. And the prune orchard got pulled out. And I remember every spring, for 6 weeks, I spent thinning the pears.
Sure.
Which, means taking some off so that the others will grow nicely. It took me 6 weeks to do that. And then, of course, when the cherries came on in the summer, us kids picked them all. And my brother Bill drove a tractor to Bingen to take them to the packing house down there. And they sold them to down there. And Mom worked in the packing house. And then in the fall, we actually had to get out of school to harvest those pears. They didn't hired help. And Bill again.
Were you in that time? Were you personally paid, or was it the family being paid, or was it just because of the family connection to the orchard?
We never ever saw a penny as kids. No.
Yeah.
Never. That's why it tickled me so after I left home. My dad approached Bill and said, "I'll pay you to thin those pears," and Bill said, "No way." And because by then he was out of high school himself and he could speak up. He had a job with an insurance agent there in White Salmon. And I think he'd figured it out because he was so helpful when I moved to Goldendale for that job in civil service. He took me up there to begin with to meet the people and to do some consulting with another insurance agent who was the same capacity as him in Goldendale. And then he helped me find a place to live. This is my, not the people in the welfare department, but my insurance boss. I hated to leave him, but I thought if I don't get away from them, and I didn't know how to. I didn't have any money.
Sure.
And I remember I used my graduation money to pay my first month's rent. It was $65 for the room and board, and my monthly wage was $140.
Wow. 50% goes to housing.
And of course, I couldn't afford a car, so I walked everywhere. But again, it was a small town, so.
Is Bub in your life yet?
Let's see. I took a second job because I thought if I could work more, I could save money to go to college.
Sure.
And I worked in a theater as an usher. And he came to the movie one night, and the girl who took the tickets knew him. She introduced us.
So are you living in Goldendale at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you've been there already. Okay.
I had the job in the courthouse.
Okay.
And after I'd had that job for 6 months, the administrator came to me and said, "We've had our funds cut, and we're going to have to cut your hours down half hours." He knew there was no way I could do what I was doing on half a salary. So I said, "I'll have to go." So my thought was, I'm going to have to go back to White Salmon. Well, anyway, the people I was living with, he ran the garbage service in Goldendale, and he saw a sign in the window of the PUD that said help wanted. So he told me about it, and I went over and had the interview, and I was exactly what they were looking for. This girl was expecting a baby, and back in those days, they didn't have maternity leave.
Sure.
But back at the welfare office, the woman whose place I took was also expecting a baby. And because she didn't have maternity leave, she wanted her job back. So she negotiated with them to get her job back after 6 months. So they had this whole thing planned that whole time. But all this time I'm working at the theater at night, thinking I can hopefully make enough money to at least pay for books and tuition if I go to Salem and go to Willamette, because my grandmother lived in Salem and I could live with her.
Okay. So what year has that been?
That would have been late 1948, early 1949.
Okay.
There was no student loans at the time.
Okay.
And then I was going with Bub too. I had met him in the meantime, and we were going together. And anyway, I had been accepted at Willamette, and I'm trying to remember how I did that. Oh, they sent me a letter saying that my new roommate wanted my input about what kind of curtains to hang. And I wrote back and said, I don't plan to live on campus. I plan to live with my grandmother. They wrote me back again saying, it is mandatory that you live on campus the first year. I know none of that stuff applies now, but it did then. So I thought, well, that does it. I can't do it. And of course, Bev was really, really, just very sorry for me. And then he said, why don't we get married? And so I just gave up on college and got married. And he used what money I had saved to buy a car for us. We moved to Vancouver in 1952 for a job for him with that car hauling company, convoy company. And we've just been there ever since.